Welcome all hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters to the only fish and wildlife conservation podcast that goes behind the scenes of the business of conservation, the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Our podcast is hosted by John Gassett from the Wildlife Management Institute and Jim Cucaruto of the Outdoor Stewards of Conservation Foundation. Jon and Jim will talk with experts from all sectors of the conservation arena about their passion for conserving the great outdoors. So please welcome our hosts of the Connecting with Conservation podcast, Jon and Jim.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Connected with Conservation, the only podcast that goes behind the scenes to look at the business of conservation and how it works in our country. I'm John Gassett with the Wildlife Management Institute and your host for Connecting with Conservation. Here today with my fellow co-host, Jim Cucaruto from Outdoor Stewards. How you doing today, Jim? Are you keeping warm down there?
I am. It looks like you got grandpa sweater on there. Must be cold where you are. So
wind chills in the single digits, and you know how my office is. The wind blows right through this roof, it feels like sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yep, a little chilly.
Well, sooner or later, the sun will be shining and you'll be outside and be able to do what we're about to talk about today, which is one of my favorite things. And it's kind of a double dipper. You know, you get to go have fun and for a good cause. And on Connecting with Conservation, we talk about all the positive contributions, a lot of direct contributions that gun owners, hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters make to society. But this is one of those, where gun owners are putting their money toward a great cause. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Zac, the executive director of Kids and Clays, and he's going to tell us all about this in more detail. So welcome, Zac, and why don't you give us your full name and title and a little background on you personally?
Yeah, Jon, Jim, thanks for having me. Super looking forward to this opportunity. Zac Lemmon with Kids and Clays Foundation. A little bit of background about myself is I am born and raised in Central Ohio. Went to school at the University of Mount Union. Have a major in sport business. Big outdoorsman. Just have always grown up that way. So at a young age, I knew that I wanted to be in some kind of sport-related field of work, and it just so happens, to be able to roll it into where I am today. A little bit more about myself. Out of college, I actually was fortunate to have an opportunity to be the operations manager and head guide for a whitetail outfitter in Licking County, Ohio, where I grew up. Was there for about 2.5 years, really enjoyed the opportunity, but really felt like there was something else out there for me. And actually a friend of mine that I went to high school with reached out to me and said, hey, I know you're big in the outdoors. I know that you're running a whitetail outfitter. My father actually works for this organization called the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance, and he has an opening. Just figured I'd send you the information just in case. So immediately I put my resume in, met with a gentleman named Jeff Watkins, and another gentleman named Doug Generette. And the position was to do club membership and individual membership for the Sportsmen's Alliance. At the time, it was a transition of leadership, if you will. And a gentleman that I'm sure Jon and Jim know very well was the executive director, president was Nick Penizzato. So worked there for 2 years, working directly with individual members, sportsmen, going to conservation banquets, going to other trade shows, much similar to SHOT Show, which will be coming up. Did that for 2.5 years, and Doug Generette, who at the time was vice president at Sportsman's Alliance and left for Kids and Clays, which does sporting clay shoots all over the country, benefiting Ronald McDonald Houses, which I'll touch on obviously throughout this interview. But about a year went by, and with Doug and working for him, and was at the NRA convention one day and ran into Doug and said, hey, if you're ever looking for something different, we've expanded to what we've been doing. with kids and clays, and would love to have an opportunity to talk to you about what that would look like. At that time, which would have been, man, oh man, 2014, 2015, it was a one-man band. It was Doug and a board and a dream to help more sick kids than ever. But having that relationship with Doug and working under him for a couple of years before he went to this new role, talking to my family, I felt like it was a great opportunity. And so I just went for it. Worked under him for 10 years. He was fortunate enough to retire, although he is still helping as a consultant. So we haven't gotten rid of him wholeheartedly yet. But in June of 2025, I was fortunate enough to take over as executive director role. And that's where I am today.
Nice. Yeah, I tell you what, that's a heck of I'm jealous of the background. They're great organizations and having fun outside. It took me a little longer to get into the outdoor industry, but one of the first things I did when I got into the industry was, hear about these, sporting clays events that went to all different types of charities, and I've been fortunate enough to go to them. But when I looked in the history of kids and clays, it's just so impressive and it's such a great story. And so why don't you give us a background, a history of kids and clays?
Yeah, absolutely. The organization originally started in 1999 as a single event for the Ronald McDonald House of Chicagoland. McDonald's owner-operator, Glenn and Kathy Lebesnick, really wanted to try to host their own event. Glenn is not so much a golf fan, if you will, which is kind of the norm fundraiser for Ronald McDonald Houses, especially early on. But Glenn, being an outdoorsman, had really fallen in love with sporting clays, specifically at a gun club in Michigan called Deer Creek. Decided to host his first one. Essentially, just word of mouth. Did almost 15, just north of $15,000 net for the Ronald McDonald House of Chicago. Then, like I said, with word of mouth, St. Louis kind of heard about this possibility of a new fundraiser, and some of the friends that Glenn had picked up over the years wanted to host one there. When I started here and Doug started here, it was a big transition because the organization had grown so much to help, critically ill children and their families in the houses that benefit from this, that help the families. I mean, Glenn's a restaurant owner. He's not a fundraiser, and he understood that and knew that there was something here, right? There was a demand for sporting clays and helping the house. At one point, for instance, Glenn was going to SHOT Show. That was his structure. He would go to SHOT Show and go to the booths, and he didn't care who it was, and walk in and introduce himself and tell the story of Ronald McDonald Houses. The first national sponsor for Kids and Clays backing with Glenn was Dick Hammett and Winchester Ammunition. And that was the that was the first sponsorship. Fast forward to when Doug took over, there were about 14 events across the country, along with doing sporting clay nationals with the National Sporting Clays Association. Over the tenure with Doug and me being underneath him, in 2025 alone, we had expanded to 47 events, raising just north of $5 million back to the houses, and roughly about 7,000 plus participants a year through our series of sporting clay events across the country. We are within 23 states now, and actually in 26 we'll be in 24. We just added Oklahoma for the first time, so really looking forward to that opportunity. Overall, we've done north of 40 million, almost 49 million now, back to Ronald McDonald Houses through the series of sporting clays events. And it just continues to be a demand that, people similar to me with an outdoorsman background, but also introducing a ridiculous amount of new people to the shooting sports, which, obviously our industry loves.
Yeah, that's a great story in that, I always think about sporting clays, and I think a lot of people do, is like it's you mentioned golf earlier. This is very comparable, except it's not quite as expensive to play around. I don't think a sporting clays is for most than a lot of golf courses I've seen now, but maybe
Yeah.
so. But what I like about it is, I always feel like, when I do occasionally play golf, it's like, well, that's just money I play just to go walk the course or ride the course and, have a few cold ones and try to hit a white ball. But, it doesn't go anywhere beneficial. This is an opportunity to improve your shooting ability, your shotgun ability. Sporting clay courses are great to shoot. I mean, just tons of opportunity, tons of variety and shots and all that. So you're getting all that. Plus, if you're doing participating in one of these events, you're donating to a good cause. So it's like you at least know the money's getting directed somewhere where it's helping kids and it that have issues or adults that have issues with through the Ronald McDonald House. So I love the model. I love and 5 million in 2024. Is that what you said? Now you're 49 million. That is outstanding. Just kudos to y'all for doing that. What are you looking at as far as growth? I mean, you add another state this year. Are you actively soliciting other states, or you just wait till they hear about it and come looking for you?
Yeah. So what's unique about us in general, and I actually learned this. I learned this at a very young age of outfitting. How powerful, if you create a good product that everybody enjoys, how word of mouth really does take off for everything, right? We're very fortunate to actually have a waiting list of houses. We don't sought after houses. Houses sought after us. And again, that's word of mouth. We do a lot of outside of our sporting clay events to help benefit the house. Because at the end of the day, to be totally honest, one of the things that I think makes our organization unique is at the end of the day, we just want to raise as much funds possible for the houses, and whatever that looks like, let's figure out what that looks like, right? But certainly our platform is sporting clays. So we do attend some of their conventions. Houses are very intertwined in networking, and we'll have conversations with houses. So we'll have Oklahoma City, which is obviously a very outdoorsman type state, if you will. We're actually going to be doing it at Side by Side Ranch at Scott Robertson's club. Very excited for that opportunity. He's been nothing but supportive since I've been here, and it's nice to be able to partner with him specifically at his gun club. Right now, we're in the talks with possibly Northeast Carolina. Kind of in the Wilmington area. Just got to work with them a little bit on what that looks like for them. And then in 2026, we actually me and my team just got off a conversation with the Billings, Montana Ronald McDonald House. So that one might be a little tough to not go visit myself from time to time. So
Have to make a site visit.
Yeah. So and I think one of the things too I should probably cover is, and I'm sure you're going to ask this, but how do we partner with them, right? I think that's probably the most important, especially this being a platform, trying to understand what it looks like on the backside, because that's how I've always been fascinated with is not understanding how this community and this industry works. What makes us unique is Ronald McDonald Houses, I wouldn't say that they are versed in sportsman-esque type hobbies, but they do know the golf outing, as you alluded to, John. So what we do is we're kind of the bridge between the outdoor, the gun club, the firearm industry, the ammunition industry, and just the outdoor industry in general. That's my background. That's a couple of our employees' backgrounds. And then there's the bridge of the outdoor industry, understanding Ronald McDonald Houses, right? That's a whole nother language, right? So we kind of play that bridge when it comes to a consulting and making sure that best practices are utilized for both parties involved. But what really separates us is a couple things. The outdoor industry is so giving that we're actually able to provide 100% of the ammunition to these houses, provide a merchandise package of outdoor goods, anywhere from 3 to 7 firearms that they're able to raffle, silent auction, live auction, any of those things, in-course games. We provide a participant gift. We also provide being there, right? We set up the day before with the house. We attend the events. and help them with day of the event. We also help them with best practices. Where do you utilize your time, right? We're trying to eliminate the houses and their committees from going out and trying to find in-kind donations like, earmuffs or additional guns or any of those things, right? We bring that to you. Okay. Get local sponsors, get participants. That's all you got to concern yourself with. Everything else, Kids and Clays comes in and helps, right? When it comes to participants on the other end, it's okay. 90% of the participants that we have are corporate driven. So you have the boss and employees. So we keep them on Fridays for the most parts or Mondays, right? No one ever told their boss no that they go shoot on a work day, right? I mean, it's a pretty simple concept. But also you don't want to have them say, well, I've never shot before. Well, that's no problem. Kids and Clays and the shoot provides that. Well, I don't have a shotgun. No problem. We provide loaner guns to every one of our events, right? All you have to do is show up. We provide ear and eye protection, loaner firearms, ammunition, lunch, all of those things are eliminated. So you just got to show up. And what we have found is roughly 70% of our participants, it's either their first time shooting or it's the only time they shoot.
Yeah, and I've seen that firsthand. And just backing up real quick, so sporting clays for folks listening or watching is kind of like golf, but there's 15 stations and you shoot a total of 100 rounds at a clay disc. And, unlike golf, you want to get the higher the better, right? You don't want a low score, you want a high score. But, very social, very fun, very safe. And, a lot of these sporting clays are for Boy Scouts or for waterfowlers associations. And it's a lot of the hunters and gun owners that go to them. But this Kids and Clay one, it's law offices, it's real estate offices, and, just one guy, it's going to a good cause. And it's great going to them because you get to see all these people with their first shot and, see them hit their first target or whatever the case may be. And they have a blast. And when it comes time for the auction, they open up their wallets as well. So why don't you walk us through kind of a typical day, I guess, getting there in the morning, what's the first thing that happens through closing bell?
First things first is we make sure that everybody's paid the Ronald McDonald House up front. Everybody gets their money, right? At the end of the day, it's a fundraiser. We're going to make sure that the house makes as much funds possible. Majority of our events are first rotation morning. So in the morning, we'll open up registration for an hour and a half. Majority of the events have McDonald's owner operator supplier support. So you're going to have your Egg McMuffin, right? You're going to have those kinds of things, your hash browns and whatnot, which is a great touch, your coffee, all that kind of stuff. You'll go through registration. Typically what happens after that is there'll be an opportunity to do additional fundraisings, right? This is where you get to do the raffles, you get to do the silent auctions, you get to see what live auctions there are, what in-course games that we have, right? We push our houses to have an opportunity for everybody to fundraise, right? It's nice to have, Krieghoff, if you will, to live auction on for $12,000. But like I said, the boss is there, but there's not a lot of people that really, can afford a Krieghoff at all times, right? I'd get in trouble if I went in live auction and won a Krieghoff like that. So we try to offer up opportunities for everybody. So the raffle structure, $100, you're in for everything, right? And you can still go home with a premium firearm from anybody or soft good merchandise. But it just that would be kind of your next thing. Obviously the waiver filling and all that kind of stuff is kind of taken care of at the beginning as well. Then what happens is, hey, do you need a loaner firearm? Hey, no problem. Go over here to this table, get a loaner firearm. Oh, you need ammunition? Okay, you're going to shoot 12 or 20. And then we hand it out to them, explain to them just in case, make sure everything's safe. We'll then have some kind of roundup of everybody, whether that's, a safety talk. There's always a safety talk, but sometimes the house wants to talk or we'll talk and say, to everybody, thank you. Majority of our events have golf carts. As you mentioned, Jim, it's very similar to golf, but it allows people to put all their stuff on there, right, and then go to station to shoot. We always, other than one event, shotgun start, right? You start at a station. You'll do your event, and just have a good time. We'll, us as a staff, us as a house, we'll walk around, thank people, make sure they're doing good, hand out water, candy, snacks, those kinds of things. Come back in. We'll do, final sales for that first rotation. If you want to do, if you want to contribute into the raffle, silent auction, those kinds of things, we'll have lunch. Lunch is provided. Everybody will eat. And then, we'll draw winners. We'll, recognize teams that win, individuals that win, ladies that win, those kinds of things. And then if you are fortunate, and some of our larger events have second rotation. So as that second rotation is coming in during lunch, so they'll actually register while the first rotation is out. Register, get lunch as well. Everybody comes together, middle of the program. They can buy raffle tickets, whatnot. We still draw all the winners in the middle of the program. And then that second rotation will go out and shoot in the evening. We'll do awards at the end, and people go home.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go to one of these now. I'm intrigued. I hadn't heard about it before Jim talked to me about putting you on as a guest. I'm like, that's a great concept. So I definitely got to try this out. I like the fact that you have an iconic brand associated with, the shooting sports. And a lot of times shooting sports gets a bad rap. Gun ownership or gun use gets a bad rap. But here's the shooting community, and in many cases, people who are maybe going to become part of the shooting community are getting that opportunity to go. They feel good about it. They're getting contributing to good cause, and they're also getting to break a few shotgun shells, maybe for the first time ever. And that generates excise tax to the tune of $1 billion a year to come back to state fish and wildlife agencies. So not only helping the Ronald McDonald Houses, you're helping state fish and wildlife agencies at the same time. And if they become customers, they become long-term, shooters or sportsmen or sportswomen, and then, you double down on everything because they're buying licenses and other gear and everything. So just a great story. But I have to ask you, with as many new shooters you come through, do you ever come across people, I've never shot before, and you put a shotgun in their hands and they're just a natural. They don't.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
It's between the ears kind of thing, and if you don't, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. I'll tell you a good one. There's a gentleman who's a pro shooter of ours. His name's Todd Hitch. He's a younger kid. Didn't know anything, just picked it up, and just he was. It feels like he was put on earth to shoot a shotgun, and now he's he can win the U.S. Open and everything. But yeah, it is unbelievable, and on top of that, John, as well, just everybody's hesitant on new stuff. We're creatures of habit. I mean, humans are definitely creatures of habit. So when you put someone in an opportunity to try something new in general, and they understand that, oh, it's not all that bad, right? A firearm is certainly intimidating, outside of, our realm of the world, it seems. But when you put someone in a comfortable position and they're safe and they understand, the reality of it, that's a huge blessing to have that opportunity to introduce somebody to something like this.
Yeah. I always compared it to, someone learning to drive a car, a teenager learning to drive a car. It's like, it's exciting. They're scared. They're nervous the first time. If not done properly, it could be dangerous, but give them a week of doing that or 2 weeks of doing that. And then they want to drive everywhere. And you see some of these people, just, you put them out there and they're, that initial hurdle of shooting a gun for the first time can be a struggle. But once you get that done, it's like, hey, this is fun. But I do have to tell you a quick story. I actually, when I was in Kentucky, I took we did step outside events, which were, we're not fundraisers, but events to get new people outdoors. And I invited my deputy secretary of my cabinet to go, and I won't mention his name, but anyway, he shows up, and he's a rather large guy, and I asked him, I said, well, have you ever shot shotgun before? We're on a trap range. He said, well, yeah, I grew up shooting rabbits and everything, but I handed him the shotgun. I wasn't sure he knew which end to point down range. So I'm like, this is not going to go well. He thinks he knows more than he does. But after about the third shot, he crushed every target we put in front of him. All right. Now the backstory is he was a quarterback for the University of Kentucky for 4 years. He played in the pros. He played in 2 Super Bowls. He played in the pros as a tight end. The man had hand-eye coordination like nobody's business. So all he needed to know was which end of the gun the shot was going to come out and how to take the safety off. And he didn't miss after that. And I'm like, I can't do that now. And I've been shooting shotguns for 50 years, and he was just crushing targets. But
Yeah, it
sometimes
sounds
you
like
run
he
into those.
understands lead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I noticed on your website, Kim Rohde's one of y'all's folks on there. It's like watching her I almost can't watch her in the Olympics. It just embarrasses me. I'm that bad, and she just never misses. So I think it's just a great program. So appreciate you doing all that.
Well, what I like about it is, the math part of it. So, usually at the end of it, somebody's like, how'd you do? And I say, oh, I got most of them. And they don't know that 51 out of 100 is the most. I got most of them. 51 out of 100. I'll take that all day long. I like saying I got most of them. But, going back to the Ronald McDonald portion of it, one of the things at the events I've been to is you play a video of the families, I want to say affected by it or not affected by it, but that benefit from it. So tell us a story about, it's kind of gets you choked up just watching the videos. And I'm sure you got to maybe visit houses or maybe visit some of the benefactors of this. Tell us a story about the emotional side of supporting such a great cause.
Yeah, even just thinking about it, we're, kids and clays are exposed to it all the time. You would think it would get easier, and it does not. It doesn't. If anything, it's probably worse just because when, in some of our events, we're very fortunate that families will come and talk during the program. And as soon as that happens, I get choked up just thinking about it right now, just the impact that, the people in the room have. One of the things that we try to, I wouldn't say push, but we certainly ask specifically our board of directors is, we do an annual board meeting every year, January, February. And actually we just got back from ours in Macon, Georgia. We have a shoot for the Ronald McDonald House of Central Georgia, which is in Macon. And we try to connect to make sure that we're able to, one, either have the board meeting at one of our shoots, but most importantly, try to tour the house and see the house. So we just came off of that, and a lot of Ronald McDonald houses have come through with renovations, so it's all new to them, and no house is the same, right? Like some have 200 rooms, some have 8, right? But when you're in those houses, I think that's really where it hits home. I can't tell you the countless amounts of families I've encountered because of this job. And the countless families that have been impacted because of this job. It's just astronomical, the good that people can do, especially when you get the opportunity to meet them or you get to tour it. So I guess where I'm going at with this is like, there are 277 Ronald McDonald houses in the U.S. I promise you, in any of these major cities, or if there's a children's hospital or a St. Jude, any of those larger hospitals, there's most likely a Ronald McDonald house right outside of that. I would encourage anybody and everybody to either just go tour it, just go tour it or volunteer. We talk about this internally all the time. We have the easiest job in the world when it comes to benefiting Ronald McDonald houses. The people that work in those houses and the people that they see on an everyday basis while trying to find fundraisers and try to find a way to raise raise any kind of funds for not just the house, but the families. I don't know how they do it, to be totally honest. Allow someone like us, allow Kids and Clays to come in and carry that burden off of those employees. Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's one specific story to the houses because they're all so impactful.
Right. Well, definitely, again, thanks for doing what you're doing. And again, it's a connection to conservation. Not only you're helping, people get started shooting and help for a good cause, but all those, shots and shotguns go back to support state agencies to put more, habitat and clean water, fresh air, all that sort of fun stuff that we take for granted. And a lot of people don't realize it. It comes down to hunters, anglers, trappers, and shooters that continue to fund the bulk of conservation out there. So again, appreciate the story there, Zach. And why don't you tell us where folks can go to, find more information, to donate, to come to one of your events, and, how to follow what's going on at Kids and Clays and Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing, we live in a technological world and all of that. So kidsandclays.com has everything that we do, all the way from our event schedule to our impact. It also showcases, those organizations, companies that partner with us. And I always want to put a plug into not just the outdoor industry, but McDonald's owner operators, suppliers. A lot of big names out there work with us and understand the value of what this organization can do for Ronald McDonald Houses. But yeah, kidsandclays.com, by far the easiest. Our contact information is on there. I would also say that, we're very fortunate to be the charity of choice of the National Sporting Clays Association, Amateur Trap Shooting Association, National Skeet Shooting Association, as well as Scholastic Clay Target Program. And they have a ton of stuff on what we do and our impact and how they partner with us. So any of those designated organizations as well, you'll be able to find information.
Well, Zach, thank you for all you're doing. This is it's one of the best programs I've heard about in a long time. So and I've been doing this for a while. So thanks for doing that. It is an outstanding program for a great cause. Just can't say enough good things about it. To our listeners and viewers, if you hadn't figured this out yet, the conservation community is driven by participation. And there's lots of ways to participate. You can do sporting clays events where you're donating to a good charity like this. You can buy a hunting or fishing license. You can buy firearms and ammunition, fishing tackle, and all that. It all supports us through either excise taxes, license purchases, what have you. But that's the way we keep conservation moving in this country. That's how we get clean water, clean air, healthy environment, healthy forests. It's all mostly on the backs of the licensed buying sportsmen and women out there. So take an opportunity if you get a chance to go and participate in a Kids and Clays event if you can. Find another local charity nearby that does similar things. If you got one that's more your flavor, take someone hunting. Check out the Come With program on Outdoor Stewards website. These are places where you can find opportunities to go. If you haven't tried it before, they'll help you. They'll help put you in contact with people that can help you. And if you have done it, take somebody with you. It's easy as that. So thanks for listening. We appreciate your support. If you like this episode, please subscribe to us and give us a thumbs up or a like. And we hope to see you out there in the woods or on the water soon. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast. Please do us a favor and tell your buddies, friends, family, and others about what you've learned here today. If you like what you heard, come on back anytime and listen to another episode of the Connecting with Conservation podcast.